Hello, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. Sit down, please. I'd like to speak English today too, to improve my speaking skill. Let's get it started. Today, it is February 18th, 2023. It's on Saturday. Your lovely Saturday, maybe. And it's a little cloudy today. But there is one good thing. Due to the low, due to the rain is rainy, due to the rain, and it is a little warm today. It is a little warmer than yesterday, so it is a good point in winter. According to the weather forecast, it is warmer tomorrow, which is also good news. Thanks to the low atmosphere pressure, how can I say, 低気圧. Thanks to the low atmosphere pressure, it will be warmer in the rain. Kids tend to absorb everything faster than adults, so kids can absorb English skill faster than adults. Does the material absorb water? Does the material absorb water? Towel absorb water. Towel absorb water. Towel absorb water. I'm sorry, I was absorbed in playing video games while you were knocking at the door. I could not notice it. I'm sorry, but I was absorbed in playing video games. I could not hear the doorbell. I was so into it. We should search for a thing which we can be absorbed in forever. We should find something we can be absorbed in forever. Passion, which is passion. Enthusiasm. We should find something we can be absorbed in life, which is very important in our life. We should find something we can be absorbed in for a long time or forever, eternally, perpetually, forever, which is very important part in our life. Searching for a thing which we can be absorbed in forever, perpetually, eternally, forever, is very important. Are you usually absorbed in something once you start? Some kids are absorbed in something once they start. I cannot be absorbed in what I'm not interested in. I cannot be absorbed in what I'm not interested in. Is the material absorbable? 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 Absorbable. Absorbable. Towel is absorbable. Towel is absorbable. 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 As absorbable. Towel is absorbable. 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 Towel is absorbable of water. Absorbable. Absorbable material. Absorbable material. Absorbable material. Since there was no absorbable material after the bath, because I forgot to bring that, so I waited for my skin to dry naturally. I forgot to bring towel with me, so I waited for my hair to dry naturally after swimming in the sea. Absorbable material. The medicine is absorbable in our stomach. It will be digested. The medicine will start to work in 30 minutes. The medicine will be absorbable in our stomach and start to work in about 30 minutes. The medicine is absorbable in our body and will start to work in about 30 minutes. Okay? The medicine is absorbable. Some materials is not absorbable. Some materials are not absorbable. Some materials are not absorbable. Absorbable. Some materials are not absorbable. 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 Is the material absorbable? Absorbable material like towel. The paper-like food is absorbable. It is edible. The paper-like thing covered in the caramel is absorbable in our stomach. It is edible. It will melt in our stomach. The paper-like thing covering the caramel is edible. It is absorbable in our stomach. The paper-like object, the paper-like thing covering the caramel is edible. It is observable. Absorbable. The paper-like object covering the caramel is absorbable in our stomach. Once you lick it, it will melt. It is edible. absorbable, absorbable, absorbable material, absorbable material. Kiss is better absorbable of anything. Absorbable, absorbable, absorbable material, absorbable material like towel. Absorbable, absorbable material like towel. Absorbable cushion, absorbable cushion from against car accident. Absorbable cushion, absorbable cushion will come out when the front of the car detects a certain power of action, a crash. Absorbable cushion will come out of the driver, driving seat, and assistant driving seat. When the front of the car detects a certain power of crash. Absorbable, 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 absorbable material, absorbable material, absorbable material, absorbable, 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 absorbable. Are you afraid of the side effects of the medicine? No medicine will have no side effect. Every medicine will have a certain kind of certain side effects, adverse reactions. What adverse reactions does the medicine have? What kind of adverse reactions does the medicine have? I'd like to know beforehand, in advance, before I start taking the medicine, okay? Adverse reaction, side effects. What kinds of adverse reactions does the medicine have? What kinds of adverse reaction does the medicine have? I am afraid of what kinds of adverse reactions will affect me in the future. I'm wondering what kinds of adverse reactions will happen in the future to me. Fortunately, I had no adverse reaction from the medicine. Fortunately, I had no clear adverse reaction from the medicine. Adverse reaction, side effects, adverse reaction, adverse reaction, adverse reaction, adverse reaction. Adverse reaction. Are you frightened of adverse reaction from the medicine? I kept being worried about the side effects, adverse reaction of the new medicine. But I decided to take the medication because I couldn't suffer dizziness. I kept worrying about the side effects, adverse reaction from the new medicine for about 2 years. But at some point, I decided to take the medication because I couldn't resist the itchiness on my skin. Compared to the itchiness on my skin, the adverse reaction is too light for me. If it is compared to the itchiness of my skin, the adverse reaction is too light for me. It is almost nothing. Adverse reaction, adverse reaction, adverse reaction, adverse reaction, adverse reaction. My interests are usually adverse. Adverse reaction. My interests are usually adverse, totally adverse from others. My interests and way of thinking are usually adverse to others. My interests are usually totally adverse to those of others. Adverse wind. Do you know how difficult it is to take a bicycle in the adverse wind, in the adverse wind, in the adverse wind, in the adverse wind, adverse wind. Do you know how difficult it is to ride on the bicycle in the adverse wind? I like this phrase, adversity builds character, and it is true. Only adversity will make us stronger. Only adversity will make us stronger. Adversity. We've got over many difficulties, adversities, predicaments, which made us what we are now. Adversity will make us stronger. We have got through many difficulties, predicaments, adversities. I've also overcome adversities, many adversities. I've overcome many adversities. I've overcome many adversities. I've got through many difficulties, adversities. Have you ever been infected with flu virus? Have you ever been infected with common cold virus? Virtually, the company is taken over by antisocial group. Some companies are virtually controlled by antisocial group, a violent group. Virtually. Virtually, there are many exceptions in the rule. Virtually, there are some exceptions in the rule. Virtually, there are illegal things happening behind the scenes. Virtually, there are many exceptions happening behind the scenes. In effect, there are many illegal things happening behind the scenes. In effect, I can no longer understand Spanish. In effect, I could hardly understand what the professor was explaining on the board. I could scarcely understand what you said. I cannot walk any longer. Virtually, in effect, I can no longer walk. I cannot walk any longer, anymore. In effect, the celebrity is anything but tall, as explained in the profile. In effect, I am nothing but a human. In effect, I am none other than a human. None other than a human. None other than a human. Taisei Hokan was the virtual end of Edo government. Taisei Hokan, or the return of government power to the emperor, was a virtual end to Edo government. Edo government virtually came to end in the mid-19th century with Taisei Hokan. Virtual coin. Have you ever invested in virtual coin, crypto coins, virtual currency, virtual coins? Are you interested in investing in stocks or virtual coins, crypto coins, virtual world? The story depicted in the virtual world might be made true in the near future. The story depicted in the virtual world started to be more realistic in the current society. The story depicted in the virtual world of the movie started to be realistic in current society. Virtual end of the government. Virtual rejection. Virtual acceptance. Virtual end to the Edo government. Virtual. 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 Virtual society. Virtual world. Virtual world. More and more people might be observed in virtual world like metaverse. More and more people might be observed in virtual world. Virtual world. More and more people might be observed in virtual world. Virtual world. More and more people might be observed in virtual world. Virtual world. Virtual world. The three small villages were observed in bigger one. Three villages were observed in one big city. The three small cities were absorbed in merged into one big city. The three small cities were merged into one big city. The three small cities were absorbed in one big city. With the VR goggle, we can enjoy the virtual world. Virtual coin. Virtual. virtual, virtual, virtual world, virtual, virtual. No medicine cured me of my itchiness perfectly. No medicine cured me of my itchiness. No medicine cured me of my itchiness on my skin. No medicine cured me of the itchiness on my skin perfectly. I hope some miracle medicine will be invented to cure me of my itchiness on my skin. But many kinds of cure is available now. More selections of cure is available now. More selections of cure are available now. More options of cure are available now. Cure of my disease might not be accomplished before I die. The cure of my skin problem should be achieved so that I can have as normal life as other ordinary people. Do you know how much I spent on my disease for the cure? Do you know how much I spent on my disease for the cure? Cure. Do you know how much I spent on my disease for the cure? But my disease hasn't been cured yet. My disease hasn't been cured yet. My disease hasn't been cured yet. Some miracle medications contributed to the cure of some diseases. Some miracle medications contributed to the eradication of some diseases. Some miracle medicines, drugs contributed to the cure of some diseases. So I hope some miracle medicine for my skin will be invented anytime soon to cure me of the itchiness of my skin perfectly, once and for all. My skin problem has been cured at the clinic since I was born. I got a tentative cure at the school before going to the clinic. I got a tentative cure at the school before going to the hospital. I got a tentative cure at the school. I got a tentative cure at the health room of the school before going to school, before heading for school. My common teacher cured my injury on my knee. when I fall, when I fall, when I fell on my knees. My teacher cured my injure on my knee. I often used to injure my knee by falling. I used to fall on my knees frequently. So I still have the injure. I still have the trace of the injure. I still have the traces of the injuries. I still have the traces of the injuries, wounds. My teacher cured the injuries on my knee. My common teacher cured the injuries on my elbows before going to school, before going to hospital. My teacher cured my injury on my elbow. I cured myself before going to hospital. I cured myself on my own before going to hospital. No medication cure my skin perfectly as of now. Some people never cure and wait for the natural recovery. Some people never cure but wait for the natural recovery. Some people never cure. Some people never cure but wait for the natural recovery. Natural recover. Some people never cure but wait for the natural recovery. Some people never cure but wait for the natural recovery. If you don't cure and leave it as it is, it will be worse. If you don't cure and leave it as it is, the situation will be worse. It might be the situation in which it cannot be helped later. If you leave it, if you don't cure and leave it as it is now, the disease might develop into the situation in which it cannot be helped. If you don't treat, if you don't cure and leave it as it is, from now on, I have a cureless disease as of now, but I hope the advancement of medical technology will cure my disease perfectly, once and for all. I don't want an extra cureless disease, but I have one. I have a cureless disease. I have a cureless disease. I hope the medical technology will eradicate my cureless disease. I hope all of the cureless diseases will be cured perfectly in the future, in the near future. Cureless. I hope all of the cureless diseases will be eradicated with the advancement of new technology, medical technology. Cureless. 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 I have a cureless disease. Since I was born. I got a cureless disease when I was born. I got a cureless disease when I was born. When I was born. I got a cureless disease. Cureless. I got a cureless disease when I was born. I'm suffering from curious disease since I was born. I'm suffering from curious disease since I was born. I'm suffering from curious disease since I was born. I'm suffering from curious disease since I was born. I'm suffering curious disease. I'm suffering curious disease since I was born. Curious. I'm suffering from curious disease since I was born. Curious. 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 Some curious diseases in those days are cured recently. Some curious diseases in those days are cured now. Some curious diseases in the past are cured cured now. Thanks to the development of new medical technologies. Hmm. I'm suffering curious disease. I'm suffering curious disease. I'm suffering curious disease since I was born. I'm suffering curious disease since I was born. I'm suffering from incurable disease since I was born. I'm suffering incurable disease since I was born. I hope my incurable disease will be cured perfectly in the near future with the development of medical technology. I'm suffering from incurable disease. I'm suffering from incurable disease. But I hope all of the incurable diseases will be cured perfectly with the new medical technology. Some incurable diseases in those days are cured recently. Some incurable diseases are cured now. Some incurable diseases in the past, in those days, are cured. Incurable disease. I'm suffering incurable disease. Incurable. Incurable disease. Incurable disease. I've been suffering. I have been suffering. I have been suffering. Incurable. Incurable disease. I've been suffering. I have been suffering from incurable diseases. A disease since I was born. incurable. I have been struggling with incurable disease since I was born. I have been struggling with incurable disease since I was born. I have been struggling with incurable disease since I was born. I have been struggling with incurable disease since I was born. It's super difficult to predict, to escape from natural disaster, but we can take precautions beforehand to lessen the amount of disaster, to decrease the amount of disaster. Although we take precautions beforehand, we often cannot escape from natural disasters. We have to serve a certain amount of damages. We can lessen the amount of damages by taking precautions. By taking enough precautions, we can decrease the amount of disasters or damages by taking precautions, taking preventions, taking precautions. Precaution. By taking precautions. It is your fault that you didn't take any precautions beforehand in advance. By taking precautions, we can lessen the possibility of getting into trouble. We can lessen the possibility getting into troubles by taking precautions. We can decrease or lessen the possibility of getting into troubles by taking precautions. We can decrease the possibility of getting into troubles by taking precautions to some extent, to a certain extent, to some degrees. Precaution. A glass of water. Precaution. Precaution. It is your fault. It is your fault because you didn't take any precautions. It is your fault because you didn't take any precautions. As you didn't take any precautions. Precaution. It is very nice of you to carry the baggage to her room. It is very nice of you to carry her bag to the opposite side of the street when crossing the street. It is very kind of you to carry the baggage for old lady when crossing the street. It is very kind of you to carry the baggage for the old lady crossing the street. It's definitely your fault to take no precautions. It is perfectly your fault to take no precautions. Precaution. It can be difficult to deal with the problems. It can be difficult to understand what you have said. It is difficult for me to understand native speakers speaking so fast. It is often difficult for me to understand native speakers speaking so fast. Caution. Caution. The cuisine was prepared with caution, with a lot of caution, because it was served to the executive members of the big company. The cuisine was prepared with caution because it was served to senior officials of the government. Caution. In the first part of the lecture, I was listening to the lecture with caution, but as time passed, my motivation decreased, my attention decreased, my caution decreased. At the first part of the lecture, I was listening to the lecture with caution, but as time passed, but as time passed, my attention started to decrease. My caution level started to decrease. Whenever I go to a foreign country, I am with super caution so that my wallet won't be stolen. Whenever I go to a foreign country, I'm with super caution so that I won't get into trouble. Although we move with a lot of caution, we make a mistake sometimes. Although we are with a lot of caution, we make a mistake sometimes. We sometimes make a mistake. We make a mistake from time to time, occasionally, on occasion. Caution, caution. I think some drivers will drive a car with caution at first, soon after getting driver's license, but as time passes, the level of caution might decrease. It can be set to everything, I think. Soon after getting the qualifications or licenses, we tend to be with caution, but as time passes, the level of caution will decrease because we get used to it. We should keep the high tension, high caution, so that we won't make a mistake. We should keep the high caution, caution. We should keep the high caution. We should keep high caution. We should keep the high caution. We should keep high caution. We should keep cautioned. We should stay cautioned. Caution, caution. We should keep the caution until the end. The pianist played the piece with caution till the end. Can you play a piece with a lot of caution till the end? Can you listen to the lecture with a lot of caution till the end? For 90 minutes. Can you listen to the lecture for 90 minutes with a lot of caution till the end, until the end? The board in the park cautions us that we shouldn't eat food in the park. The board in the park says cautions us that we should not eat or drink in the park. The board cautions us that we should not climb the ladder attached on the wall. The board attached on the wall cautions us that we mustn't climb the ladder attached on the wall for safety. The board cautions us that we should not go beyond the fence for safety. The board cautions us that we mustn't walk beyond the fence for our safety. The board on the wall cautions us that we should not throw anything away from the ship. The board on the wall cautions us that we mustn't throw anything away from the ship. Throwing anything away from the ship is subject to maximum fine of $500,000. Too much. The board on the wall cautions us that we mustn't throw anything away from the ship. The board on the wall cautions us that we mustn't climb the ladder. The board on the wall cautions us that we shouldn't park any cars in the premises. The board on the walls cautions us that we cannot park a car in the premises. The board on the wall cautions us that we cannot park a car in this premises. I found a board on the wall cautioning us that we cannot park a car in the premises. I found a board cautioning us that we cannot smoke a cigarette inside. The board cautioning us that we cannot smoke a cigarette inside. I read the directions cautioning us that we cannot park our car and smoke a cigarette inside the premises. Whenever I go to a foreign country, I'm cautious. I'm super cautious so that I won't get into trouble. Whenever I go to a foreign country, I'm super cautious so that I won't get into trouble. In order that I won't get into trouble. Cautious. Cautious. I was super cautious soon after getting the driver's license, but as time passes, my, the level of caution decreased. I think it will happen to many people. Cautious. Cautious. We should stay cautious. We should live cautious. We should stay cautious. We should hold cautious until the end of the performance. Can you keep cautious? Can you remain cautious for 19 minutes until the end of the lecture? Can you keep cautious? Can you stay cautious? Can you live cautious? Can you remain cautious? For 19 minutes until the end of the lecture. Cautious. I keep cautious. I remain cautious. I stay cautious. Cautious. I stay cautious. I will live cautious. I will keep cautious. I will stay cautious. I will hold cautious until the end of the lecture. We cannot be too cautious when driving a car. We cannot be too cautious when we drive a car. We cannot be cautious too much when we drive a car. We cannot be cautious enough when we drive a car. Cautious. I'm suffering from a terminal illness. I'm suffering from terminal illness. I'm suffering from a terminal illness. A terminal illness. I'm suffering terminal illness. I'm suffering terminal illness. I have been 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 suffering terminal illness since I was born. I hope my terminal illness will be eradicated with the new medical technology anytime soon. I hope all my terminal illness will be cured perfectly with the new medical technology. I'm suffering terminal illness. I'm suffering terminal illness. I have been suffering from 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 terminal illness. Terminal illness is affecting me. Terminal illness is affecting me. Terminal illness is having a bad effect on me. Terminal illness is having an effect on me. Having a bad effect on me. The terminal illness is having a bad effect on me. The terminal illness is affecting my life. The terminal illness is affecting the quality of life of mine. The terminal illness is having a bad effect on me. The terminal illness is having a bad effect on the quality of life, on the quality of my life. And the terminal illness is having a bad effect on the quality of my life. The terminal illness is having a bad effect on the quality of my life. Have you had a heart disease? Have you had a heart disease? My grandfather has a heart disease, so I'm afraid of him having the bouts. I'm afraid of my grandfather having bouts of the heart disease because he has a heart disease. My grandfather has a heart disease. My grandfather has a heart disease, so I'm afraid of the disease acting up. I'm afraid of his heart disease acting up. I'm afraid of the heart disease acting up in him. I'm afraid of his heart disease acting up. I'm afraid of the symptom of the heart disease coming out. My grandfather has a heart disease, so I'm afraid of the symptom coming out. My grandfather has a heart disease, so I am afraid of the bout coming out of him. My grandfather has a heart disease, so I am afraid of the symptom coming out. My grandfather has a heart disease, so I'm afraid of the bout coming out. The objects deeper than 1 kilometer cannot be detected from the tour. The iron existing under the deeper than 500 meters are undetectable by the tour. The iron existing deeper than 1 kilometer are detectable with the tool. Undetectable. The tumor was undetectable with the tool, but it was detectable with another new tool. Undetectable. At first, the iron was undetectable with the tool, but with the new tool, it was detectable. The new type of aircraft is undetectable by laser. The new type of stealth battlecraft is undetectable by laser. Undetectable. The submarine is undetectable by laser. Some concealed vehicles are undetectable. 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 Many talents might not be detectable. Many talents in us might be undetectable in the current society. Many talents in us might be undetectable, sadly. Undetectable. No viruses were undetectable. Viruses were undetectable from the blood. No viruses were detectable. Viruses were undetectable from the blood. Viruses related to the disease were undetectable from the blood. Undetectable. 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 Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Unbelievable sights. Unbelievable sight from the observatory. You can oversee the panorama of Tokyo City from Tokyo Tower. You can enjoy the panorama of Tokyo City. You can enjoy overlooking the panorama of Tokyo City from Tokyo Tower. Do you like to read a book? Do you like reading a book? I used to hate reading a book. Now, I still hate it, but I can read a book. I feel the same stress when I read a textbook or comics. Reading a comics and a textbook give me the same stress. I wish I were as fascinating as you. How can I be as fascinating as you? I wish I were as fascinating as you. Could you translate the book into Japanese? Could you translate the English book into Japanese? Could you translate the Japanese book into English? How long does it take to translate the English book into Japanese? 2 years. Do you like to listen to your mother reading a fairy tale in the bed? Did you like to listen to the fairy tale read by your mother in the bed? Have you listened to the fairy tale read by your mother? My mother is very bad at reading a book, so it was not fun for me at all. She cannot read a book correctly. Do you like your favorite fairy tales? Do you have recommendations for fairy tales? Do you have some recommendations for fairy tale? Do you have some recommendations for fairy tale? Do you have some recommendations for fairy tales? Do you have some recommendations of fairy tale? Do you have some recommendations for fairy tale? Kanto Plain is the largest one in Japan. Kanto Plain. Osaka Plain. I need to pronounce articulately so that my English can be understood. I should speak English. I should have a plain pronunciation. I should have a plain pronunciation in order that my English can be understood. I should have a plain pronunciation. I should have a plain pronunciation. Plain. I should have an articulate pronunciation so that my English can be understood perfectly. I should have a plain pronunciation. Plain pronunciation. We headed for Narita Airport the following day. We headed for Narita Airport the following day. We headed for the Narita Airport early in the morning the following day. We headed for Narita Airport the following morning. We were having a party late at night, although we had to go to Narita Airport the following morning. The following charts show the statistics of the number of foreign tourists. The following statistics show how many foreign tourists came to the facilities. The following charts show us the number of tourists into the tourist spots. The following contents include offensive ones, so if you don't want to be offended, you should skip. The following charts will be helpful for your plan. The following data will be helpful for your future plan. The following data will contribute to creating your project. The following data will be helpful for your decision. The following data will be helpful for you to make a decision. Do you know the reason why the passage is so narrow? It is prevent samurais to swing swords inside. Do you know the reason why the passage is so narrow? Do you know the reason why? The reason is to prevent samurais from swinging swords inside. If it is narrow, they cannot swing swords correctly. Do you have your favorite passage from celebrities or famous people? Can I know your favorite passages from famous people? Do you have some passages? Do you have your favorite some passages you like? Do you have your favorite passages from famous people or movies and so on? Some people like to quote famous passages from famous people. Some people like to quote famous passages from famous people. Some people like quoting passages from famous people. Some people like quoting passages from famous people who accomplished breakthrough. And some people like quoting passages from famous people who accomplished breakthrough. some people like quoting passages from famous people. If you quote data or passages, you have to show the title of the book and the information in the report. If you quote the passages or something like that, you have to show that you have to write the name of the book and other information in the report. Have you read a fable? I was forced to read a fable and to write an essay at school. I remember being forced to write an essay by reading a fable. I remember being forced to read books, including fable. I remember being forced to read as many books as possible when I was a kid. I remember being forced to read as many books as possible, including fable. Fable. And since we needed to go to the Narita airport the following day, following early morning, we went to sleep early. We went to the museum on the following day because we couldn't visit the museum on schedule because it was closed. Which do you prefer to sit, the window or aisle seats? I usually like the window seats because I can see the view from the window. Which seat do you prefer, aisle or window seats in the plane? Please make sure there are no obstacles in the passage. Please make sure that there are no obstacles in the passage. Don't get in my way. The blockages on the road were in the way of the commuters, in the pedestrians' way. The fix of the air conditioner was quoted at 10,000 yen. The fix of the air conditioner was quoted at 10,000 yen. The fix of the air conditioner was quoted at 10,000 yen. What did you major at university? What did you major in at university? Anthropology, archaeology, literature, English, Japanese culture, engineering, mechanic, law, medicine. Are you familiar with IoT? Are you familiar with AIs, robots, or contemporary technology? Don't look down on primitive ways. Don't think that contemporary technology is better than primitive technology. Don't recognize that contemporary technologies are better than primitive ways. Contemporary art, old art, contemporary and old art. What do you study at literature course? What do you study at literature course? What do you study at literature course? What do you learn at literature course? I don't next understand it. I could understand next to nothing about it. I could understand next to nothing about it. I couldn't next to eat. I couldn't next to eat. I couldn't next to eat because I was so tired after the hard training. I couldn't next to talk. I couldn't next to talk in front of the panels. I was so nervous. Although I was speaking well at the rehearsal with the teachers, I couldn't next to talk, speech in front of the panel at the job interview. Although I could speak well at the practice with my teachers, I couldn't next to talk in the job interview. Although I could speak well at the practice with my teachers for job interview, I could not next to talk in the real situation. I have next to no interest. I have next to no interest in cards. I have next to no interest in cards. I have next to no interest in cards. Do you remember the guy sitting next to you? I have next to interest in cards. I have little interest in engineering. I have little interest in engineering. I hope my dreams will come true. I have next to no interest in engineering. I have next to no interest in cooking. I have next to no interest in cooking. I have next to no interest in cooking. From time to time, I make a mistake. From time to time, I forget very important promise. At times, occasionally, on occasion, we tend to forget important promises. Promises. At times, we tend to make a mistake. We make a small mistake. At times, we tend to make a small mistake. At times, we tend to make a small mistake. At times, we are inclined to make a small mistake. At times, we are inclined to make a small mistake. At times, we are apt to make a small mistake. At times, we are apt to make a mistake. Make a small mistake. At times, we are inclined to make a small mistake. At times, we are apt to make a small mistake. At times, we are apt to make a small mistake. At times, we are apt to make a small mistake. At times, we are apt to make a small mistake. I used to confuse the position of Tottori Prefecture with that of Shimane Prefecture. But it is clear for me now because I studied the geography a lot. I used to confuse the position of the Tottori Prefecture with that of Shimane Prefecture because both prefectures are located next to each other. Because both prefectures are located next to each other. I used to confuse the word I used to confuse the position of Tottori Prefecture with that of Shimane Prefecture because both prefectures are located next to each other. Everybody used to confuse me with my father because we used to look similar. We looked resembled. We resembled. We looked so close. And everybody confused me with my father in the past because we used to look so alike. Many car accidents happen at the curb. Many car accidents happen at the curb. So please be careful. Please drive your car with caution when you approach the curb. When you approach the curb. When you approach the curb. Car accidents frequently happen. Arise at the curb. So please be careful and drive with a lot of caution when you drive the curb. When you drive the curb, speed down please. Car accidents often arouse at the curb of the road. So please drive your car with a lot of caution when you drive at the curb. What are you carving out of the wood? Can you imagine? The statue is carved out of one timber, one lot. Can you imagine? The statue carved out of one wood. Can you believe that the statue was carved out of one wood, one timber, one lot? Please guess what I am carving. 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 I can give you some hint. It is animal. Correct. It is bear. When I saw the train map of Tokyo, it was so confusing. It looked so confusing. When I looked at the train map of Tokyo, it looked so confusing. But once I got used to it, it is very convenient. Please guess what I am carving out of the wood. I remember carving a wood my name. I remember carving a stone of my name. I remember carving a stone my name to create my signature. At school, I remember carving a stone my name. I remember carving the stone my name to make a stamp, signature stamp. At school activity, I remember carving a stone my name to make my sign stamp at school activity. I remember carving a stone my name. I remember carving the stone my name at school activity to create stamp, science stamp. I remember carving the stone my name. I remember carving the stone my name. I remember carving the stone my name to create science stamp at school activity. At times I stop by the convenience store. At times I call on you. May I call on you? Because I want to have a word with privately. I want to have a word. I'd like to have a word with you privately. May I drop in on you? Drop in at convenience store. I frequently drop in at a convenience store during my trip. I frequently drop by at my relatives on my trip if I pass nearby. I often drop at my friend's house. Drop by my friend's house. Drop by my relative's house. My relatives. Stop by my relatives. Drop by my relatives. Drop in at my relatives on my way home or on my way trip, if I have time. I could understand the lecture more or less. I could get the overview of the content more or less. I could get the overview of the lecture more or less. At least 500 people will come to the live, more or less. I know the geography of Hokkaido, more or less. I had as little as 500 yen in my wallet. I forgot bonuses. I forgot lunch. I sometimes forgot lunch. I sometimes deal without lunch. I could get no less than 20,000 yen for the easy job. I got no more than 5,000 yen for the job. There were 15 tables more or less. Where can I get the chips for improving my speaking skills? There are many chips available for those wanting to improve English skills. There are many chips available now for those wanting to improve their speaking skills, listening skills, and so on. The information is bubbled over. At first I was bubbled over with motivation, but as time passed, my motivation decreased. We are usually bubbled over with motivation at first, but many people will lose the motivation with time, which is not good. We should keep the motivation until the end. When I went to United States, I had to give the tips to the waiter or waitresses or hotel staff and so on. Much of my money went gone. Much of my money have gone for the tips. Much of my money have gone for the tips. Tips, tips, tips. I'd like to get tips for improving my English. I'd like to get the best tips for improving my English skill. Tips. I'd like to know better tips for improving my English. There are many tips available for those wanting to improve English skill. There are many tips for many things available now. There are many tips for a variety of things available now. There are many tips for a variety of things available now. But we have to be careful of the tips because some of them are false. So we need to have the information literacy at the same time. I could get some tips for starting my business. I could get some tips for starting my business. I could get some tips for starting my business at school. I got some tips for starting my business from the teacher. I could get some tips for starting my business from my senior colleague. I could get some tips for starting my business. I could get some tips for attracting customers with conversation techniques from my senior colleagues. Are you eager to decrease your weight? Are you eager to meet the celebrities? Are you eager to succeed in your life? 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 Are you eager to come to Japan? Are you eager to earn a lot of money? Are you eager to earn a lot of money? Are you eager to earn a lot of money? Are you eager to earn a lot of money? I'm eager to know the tips for improving my English skill. I am eager to know the tips for improving my English skill. I am eager to know the tips for improving my English skill. I am eager to know the tips for improving my English skill. In the course, you can get tips for improving your English skill. There are some tips for those wanting to know how the business should be started. There are some tips available for those wanting to start a business. If you join the course, in the course you can get some tips for starting the business with less risks. Some tips for those wanting to escape from making a mistake available in the course. A lot of tips for starting the business are available. A lot of tips for those wanting to avoid making a mistake available. A lot of tips for those who are afraid of starting a business in the new era, in the new genre is available. A lot of tips for those wanting to succeed in the business are available in the course. One of the features of the course is that you can get a lot of tips for succeeding in the business. One of the features of the course is that you can get the tips for succeeding in the business. The course offers tips for those who are eager to improve English skill. The school offers tips for those who are eager to improve speaking skills. The school offers some tips for those who are eager to improve speaking skill of English. The school offers tips for those wanting to improve speaking skill. The association gives tips for those who want to know information in the industry. The association gives tips for those wanting to know the information in the industry. Okay, I will finish speaking here. Thank you for watching. See you next time. See you.